End of August and the beginning of college football. Here we go. Week 0 officially getting started Saturday afternoon across the pond. Farmageddon taking place in Ireland, Kansas State, Iowa State, 4 other matchups all going down in week 0 on Saturday. And then, of course, we got ourselves a heck of a slate from Thursday to Monday the following week in Labor Day action. Folks, this is the college football program you need in your life. Joining me, Joe Tansey, our returning champion from crossingbroad.com, among other places. Joe, how we doing, sir?
Good. I've made myself college football commissioner, and I have an idea for week 0 once we introduce our other friend here.
I like the sound of that. As always, Mark Henry Jr. can be heard every Saturday right here on The Gambler. The perfect man to set the table for, of course, all-day college football action. Mark, how we doing?
I might be the wrong guy to say this then because I kind of think get rid of week 0. How about that for an opening
I'm
take?
not opposed to that. I've said that before. Like, how about this? Give me better matchups.
Either or, it's got to be. Well, then it's almost like then it has to be a full week 1. Like,
let me stop both of you right here.
All right.
Okay. What goes on at this point of August? Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
We're watching Jameis Winston sling preseason interceptions and the Little League World Series.
Yep.
Right.
Hey.
Okay.
I've those little leaguers.
I have made myself college football commissioner for the next 10 minutes. Okay. Starting Saturday. To Saturday. Man, let's go into Labor Day because they already do this. I want one game a night. I want the marquee primetime game. Give me the Titans. Give me the big guns of the sport. Let's start the third or fourth Saturday in August. Saturday before Labor Day weekend, like we've been starting the last few years in Dublin. Give me that. Give me Sunday. Give me Monday. Give me Tuesday. Give me Wednesday. Give me Thursday. Give me Friday. Give me 3 big games on Saturday. Give me a Sunday and a Monday. Let's college football palooza this thing out. We're all about making money. It's
like
college football.
Name. Yeah.
It's college football. Like let's be honest. Every move that's been made in college football the last 25 years has been all about money.
Absolutely.
Like this is a money-driven thing where you can have standalone games each night, dominate the conversation while the NFL is on a break because they've shortened their preseason. So you're not running into any hiccups with the schedule in the NFL. Why not play one marquee game? Or hell, give us some action on August Wednesday. I'm going to watch it. I'll watch Toledo play Bowling Green. Like, give me a game, at least on the weekdays, 7:30. Give me those primetime games, and then give me the marquee, the big meaty marquee non-conference games. Start it on Saturday. If you want to do it in Dublin, you do it in Dublin, and trickle it all the way down to Labor Day.
Mark Henry Jr., what do you say to that?
This weekend, I'm sorry to say this, and I know Tansey's not as much of a fantasy nerd as I am. This weekend is fantasy draft weekend. If we're being honest, I know next weekend there will be a lot of fantasy drafts as well.
I got a draft on Saturday.
I've got 2 drafts on Saturday. So it's definitely a big time for me. I don't need week 0 because I have so much else always going on this weekend. But that's where I'm at a little bit.
Week 0 is my wife's birthday weekend, and I'm still out here advocating for football.
Well, here's
so
what I will say.
You two have no excuse.
Here's what I will say. I'm a little sour just because there's a great game. There is one very important game in week 0 this week, or this year, I should say. But I don't have a bet on it. So I think that's where we have to go next. I'll just tee up you guys for whatever you guys have on Iowa State, Kansas State. To me, we're going to talk about each conference. Kansas State is my tentative emphasis on tentative pick to win the Big 12. I wouldn't bet on the Big 12 with either of your money, let alone my money. The Big 12 is going to be haywire all season long.
I agree.
K-State's the team I tapped as the pick. The team I'm banking on some Avery Johnson improvement. Kleiman's always going to have you in the mix, and I think maybe this is the year where they take a little bit of a step. But Iowa State is right there in terms of the top of the Big 12. And I think if you look at some of the schedule stuff, think Iowa State might need this one more. You get Kansas State, you're getting them on a neutral field. You look at Iowa State's schedule until the last 4 weeks in the Big 12. If they win this game, Iowa State's setting themselves up for a really nice first 7-8 weeks, even if you lose to Iowa, because that's not going to count towards the Big 12 standings. If Iowa State can win this game, that is such a huge win for them and sets them up to really be the favorite in the Big 12. And maybe you could say that about either team winning this game, but I want to pick K-State, but there's a part of me that thinks this game might mean more to the Cyclones. Is that stupid for week 0, Joe Tansey?
I think it is.
Okay.
I don't buy the schedule thing. I think that's
it might be dumb.
Easy. Compared to at least what the preseason rankings are, I think that schedule looks fairly manageable.
You're saying Iowa State.
I do know this much.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying if they win this game, I think you're set up for 8-0, 7-1. And if you lose it, you're gonna have to claw back into it, I guess. And maybe it's dumb to say since the schedule is so easy early, this game is so big. But I think that there's to me, if you look at that schedule, there's no way they're not 6-2. But if you win this game, we're talking about a team that in November or in October could be right there in the top 12 already in Iowa State from such a big win in week 0. Whereas Kansas State, I do think they have a lot tougher of a schedule, I'd say.
I would just say this much that, yeah, it's wide open from that conference. I was talking about it earlier today where, look, if in Kansas State is favored to win the conference, they're tied at the top with Arizona State for best odds plus 550. Iowa State, though, 11-1. And it's simply saying, look, if you don't think Kansas State's going to win this, then you should probably have a play on somebody else on the backside of winning the Big 12 as well, because I think this would be a big loss for Kansas State. Now, is it the end-all, be-all? No, but I'm also not buying Kansas State being this juggernaut of a team. Could they? Of course. Anybody could. They're all 0-0 at this point.
I don't think anybody's a juggernaut in the Big 12.
No,
that's and no, it's easier said than done to pick. But with that being said, I think Iowa State's got a leg up. We saw what they were last year. I'm buying into a little bit of the hype, with our boy McClay, no doubt. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's worth a bad play at 11-1.
The problem with Iowa State in week 1 is they had 2 NFL draft picks at wide receiver, Noel and Higgins. That concerns me week 1 of the conference game.
Fair.
Like my gut, looking at the matchup, just looking at the lines without digging into it, it's like, okay, Matt Campbell, he can surprise some people. Count him out at your own cost. He's lost the opportunity to coach at the higher Power 4 level. Like Iowa State seems like his ceiling at this point. He was, the coach du jour a few years ago. And he could still have a really great career at Iowa State. I just don't think the ship has sailed on that. But
I think if they won a Big 12, we would probably start hearing his name again.
He'd jump back into the conversation. I don't know if –
especially at Iowa State.
Yeah, but coaching cycles are so incredibly difficult to predict sometimes. Seeing this matchup in week 1 against a conference opponent, that scares me from an Iowa State perspective. Yeah, they do return 2 running backs. They have Rocco back-to-back a quarterback. But losing their top 2 wide receivers to the draft, usually a power conference team can either recruit or transfer portal or give new guys 2-3 games to warm up in this case before you really get into the meat of the schedule. The fact that they're going right into this, it's their first game. There's one less week of preseason. I know they started early, but still, I would have much rather this game happen at the end of September for Iowa State to bet them than I would August 23rd. I want to get over the hump here with Iowa State. I feel like there's something there to bet them on the money line. I can't because of how much production they lost in the passing game in the offseason.
The thing I'm worried about with K-State is Giddens. No DJ Giddens. He was such a big part of that offense last year. But yeah, obviously Iowa State lost 2 huge pieces on offense as well. I think this is a tight one. I think it's a close game. I can't wait to watch it.
I mean, if you
All
look
right.
at the production, Noel and Higgins had 167 receptions. They were both 1,100-yard receivers. The next guy on this roster last year had 296 receiving yards. Like Rocco Beck relied on those guys so heavily that it's like in week 0, can you make up all that production right away? I don't know.
Rocco Beck, I'm reading the 2 seasons as a starter are the best 2-year span in Iowa State program history. Doesn't really shock you too much because they haven't really had the great quarterbacks come through that program. But
yeah, I mean, Seneca Wallace wasn't light.
Seneca Wallace, good pull.
Wasn't lighting the world on fire in the
Yeah,
past.
Purdy went in the 7th round for a reason.
Yeah. All right, so look, with that being said, Mark, no play for you. Do you have a lean?
I would lean K-State. If I'm picking them to win the playoffs or win the conference, I should lean them. I would lean K-State. I would maybe try to find their money line for a parlay for something, but laying 3 is tough for me. Maybe buy at the 2.5.
Minus 155 in the money line, plus 130 for Iowa State. Joe Tansey, do you have a play in this game?
I do, but I think I'm going to play the player prop market over in Jersey this weekend. Avery Johnson, I think his rushing yard prop is sitting around 50. I'll get the exact number and tweet it out. But he is a mobile quarterback, had 605 rushing yards last season against Iowa State last year, 64 yards. Look, it's something.
It just bothers me because I can't wager on it, and it bothers me. So it really, it irks me, and I don't even want to talk about props because I can't even get after it. It sucks.
But I would lean K-State.
Jersey for the past couple of weeks. Yeah. All right. So K-State. That's where I was as well. K-State. I think we had a couple people leaning Iowa State in the Gambler Gang, but it's going to be split. It's the first game here, week 0, of course. 3-point spread. Kansas State favored 50.5 on that one. Game being played across the pond, so we'll see what happens. But obviously, going to have a lot of attention. All right. Anything else, Joe, in the week 0 card here? Because Mark Henry Jr. says he doesn't like anything in week 0. So, of course, a couple storylines here. We got Dan Mullen getting started at UNLV. That's a monster spread at 26.5. Idaho State is a team that can score some points. They did last year. So 65.5 is our total, and we understand why that is. Dan Mullen has come out and said that he wants to be the story of Las Vegas sports. Of course, we know what's already there, but bottom line is the Running Rebels could grab some attention if they come out and cover this number of 26.5. Anything for you in this one?
No, because I just don't know what the quarterback play is going to look like. He's got the island of misfit toys working for him at UNLV.
That's never a good thing.
No, it's not. He's got Alex Orji from Michigan and Anthony Calandria from Virginia, neither of whom I really rate a ton. Dan Mullen is a quarterback whisperer. I'm sure he'll work some sort of magic, but I need to see what the quarterback situation at UNLV actually turns into before putting a single cent on them this year.
If I'm making a bet on UNLV, it's not on them to win this game or cover the spread or whatever.
Ooh.
Plus 1,500 to make the playoff.
Oh,
maybe I don't know if I bet it, but I'm thinking about it. It's going to be. Do you have the game against UCLA against like a Power 5 team where the UCLA is not going to be good? So if you could beat like a Power 5 team, maybe it helps your resume a little bit, even if they're not very good. And then you have a pretty easy schedule besides the Boise game. So
still need a quarterback.
Well, I would say I agree with you. I don't like either of those guys. But at the lower level, like those guys would probably have looked different last year than if they played at Michigan and in the ACC. So they're going down a level to the Mountain West. It's like taking the batting weight off your bat a little bit. So I think especially Calandria has some upside. It feels like Orji to me is just primarily a runner. But I was never a big Calandria guy at Virginia. Last year, I bet they're under and ended up hitting after a long, arduous journey to get there. But people tried to tell me to buy in on Calandria last year. I didn't believe in it. But at UNLV with Dan Mullen, I think he can get Calandria to a respectable level. And it's really just going to be about that game in Boise. And then even if you lose that game, you could beat them in the Mountain West Championship, be 12-1, and probably go to the playoff.
which was the rematch of the last year's Mountain West championship game. UNLV currently plus 750, Boise State minus 165 to win the conference. We will come back to the Mountain West because obviously we know how important it was last year. We got to get our picks on there. We're going to hit on the other four major ones as well. With that being said, let's keep it moving on to the Saturday card here, just as far as week 0 is concerned, storylines that would catch some attention. Do you like new stadiums? Kansas has a new one, not all brand new, but completely remodeled. Looks pretty cool. This number has climbed. It's actually been back and forth. It got as low as 12.5, 12 points at some shops, but back up to 13.5. Ow, this pen just got my fingernail. Kansas favored 50.5 here. Does the new stadium do anything for you, Joe, here on Saturday?
No, but I just want to see Jalen Daniels healthy. He's been banged up the last few years. He's one of the more electric quarterbacks, and I'm sure Kansas has a random Friday night or a few games that you'll fall in love with him if he's healthy. I think that would just be so huge for Kansas.
Obviously, if we can bet on player props, he would be a guy to eye up as well.
Absolutely.
All right.
Although they might be super inflated for the game against Fresno State.
Yeah. We'll skip the Conference USA showdown between Sam Houston and Western Kentucky, and we'll close up shop here with a game that is really intriguing as far as point spread is concerned, and also the storylines with Frank Reich, Andrew Luck taking over Stanford, Timmy Chang leading the charge again here for Hawaii. It felt like he had some success, if I'm not mistaken, putting together his offense at the end of last year. Like I said, the more intriguing part of this matchup to me is the fact that it opened up 2.5 for Stanford favored, flipped, and that's where we're at right now. Hawaii is a 2.5-point favorite. Some places are saying they can get the 3. It wouldn't shock me if this thing kicks off and it's at 3 at 7:30, because I would imagine this will see some decent action. I would recommend them next year to bump it to like 9:30, 10, so we can get a little silly. I mean, come on, man. What's this amateur hour?
And a Hawaii game starting at 7:30 is sacrilege.
Yeah, like what are we doing here? But
with that being said, take the Bows.
Yes.
Take the Bows with the 2.5. Stanford's in shambles. Who knows what the hell Stanford's going to look like? At least Hawaii's at home. They're on national TV. I think last year I sat here and advocated for Hawaii to pull off an upset. I think they played UCLA in the opener last year.
No, they played Delaware State, didn't they?
Well, they might have played the week after.
Yeah,
one of the early games I was like all over them as like a double-digit dog.
Which, if you remember, they had the snafu, the travel snafu, the bags, all that. Right. I forget they missed.
Oh, that's right. They did play Del State, and then they played UCLA was the week after. Yeah,
and they didn't cover. Yeah. And then now Deshaun Jackson is in charge of Delaware State. Think about that.
Just take Hawaii in the 2.5 and sit back with a cold one and watch it.
I love college football. We're here, baby.
It's the most beautiful thing on the planet.
You know, somebody said something on the radio the other day, when college football doesn't make sense, it's just perfect. And that's what we want. We want a little of that.
That's the beauty of it.
All right. From there, we will, of course, be recording all season long, including next week, getting you ready for all things week 1 matchup. I know Joe's going to hit us with one before we get out of here, but let's go ahead and get to the official predictions from the conference perspective. We're going to do a couple things real quick. First of all, I got Beef's plays. Joe's going to give us his, and Mark Henry Jr. is going to give us his. I'll give you mine as well. We'll put everything out via socials, but we're going to do the Power 5 from the conference standpoint, who's going to win there. We're also going to do the national championship matchup with the national championship winner. And last but not least, one team that will make the playoffs. So on the yes, one team to make the playoffs. And, of course, odds are in the conversation there. I'd love to see a dog. But all in all, as Mike Singletary once said, I want winners. That's it. So with that, let's get to it. Mark Henry Jr., let's get you back into the mix. Let's start with the SEC. Who's winning the SEC Conference Championship game this year, Mark Henry Jr.?
This is not one I would bet because they're the favorite, but I'll lean Texas here. I have Texas beating. The way it broke out, I actually had Alabama, Georgia, and LSU all tied. I put it in the simulator. Alabama came out as the team who had the tiebreaker there. So it was Texas, Bama in the conference championship. Texas wins it, but all 4 of them are in the playoff for me. So I would probably rank it Texas, Georgia, LSU, Bama. If I had to rank the four big favorites.
Plus 270 Texas to win the SEC championship game. Joe Tansey, what do you say?
It's still plus money, and it's 270 is not like the worst number out there on the board in futures.
Scotty Scheffler's plus 150 this weekend.
Well, surprised he's still got a plus sign next to his name.
It's true.
Yeah, you got to take Texas at this point. Look, they've got the road game. They've got two tough road games with Ohio State, that's out of conference, and Georgia. And that seems to be a toss-up based off of what you see in the preseason predictions. I don't know if Oklahoma is going to be ranked by the time Red River comes around. I don't know if Florida is going to be ranked by the time the Longhorns get to Gainesville on October 4th. I really don't. This schedule sets up very nicely for them. I think Texas A&M might end up being the second toughest game on their schedule.
I agree.
Yeah. I think Elko is building something there, and his teams are going to be steady defensively. So if they can get something going offensively with Marcel Reed, A&M will be tough against Texas, but there's wiggle room now with how loaded these conferences are. That's just a really long-winded way of saying Texas at plus 270 to win the SEC is a really nice bet.
Yeah, it's really just Georgia and LSU schedules are brutal. And if you look at Texas, like Joe said, I think they lose to Ohio State. Doesn't matter for this conversation. At all. So it's going to come down to at Georgia and A&M at home as the two games that decide their season. You split those, you're probably in the SEC championship.
All right. Ryan Beef Coyle comes in also with Hook'em. So I got to break the tie here. There's no way all four of us can lock
You're
in.
Mr. Archie, Mr. Arch Manning over there.
No. I was never buying Texas to win the SEC, though. I was trying to talk myself into Alabama, a little bit of a wild card. LSU, I love them. I actually think they win week one against Clemson.
Totally
Clemson wins the ACC. We'll see how that one plays out. A&M is an interesting one. I do like A&M, but I'm going Georgia. Let's go Georgia plus 330. I think that game late in the season comes down to that. It's a home game versus Texas. So give me Georgia in that one, plus 330. All right, so that's the SEC there. Let's get on over to the Big Ten. Who's taking Penn State? Joe, we'll start with you. Who's winning the Big Ten?
You're asking me to take James Franklin in a big game? Come on.
They got a couple easy ones to start.
Look, I know you know how this works. They're going to be 10-2, or 11-1. They're going to make the Big Ten championship, especially if they split the games against Oregon and Ohio State. But you're going to ask me to bet on James Franklin when it matters? Absolutely not, sir. I'm taking Ohio State.
The Ohio State.
They have the two best players in college football.
Yep.
Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs are the two best individual players in college football.
Caleb Downs, top 5 pick next year in the draft, according to Mel Kiper.
He won't be, but he should be. I'll tell you that right now. Safeties always get underdrafted in the draft. Kyle Hamilton was a top 5 pick until he was the 15th pick.
I just mentioned that. I brought that up. So we got Mark going on that one. You know that.
No, it bothers me as a draft analyst and as a football fan. Safeties get undervalued to such a degree, in my opinion, when it comes to contracts, when it comes to draft picks. I mean, we see it every. Andrew Makuba was a guy who should have went fringe first round. Malachi Stark should have went higher. The Ravens stole him at the back end of the first. It's just every year. People were referring to Malachi Stark as a top 5 pick at this time last year. For sure.
So wait, Mark, you're not taking the Ducks?
No. So I told you I flipped on this a couple weeks ago. We will get to this. Ohio State and Oregon, in my opinion, are going to be the two best teams in the country. Like, okay. I have Oregon as the team. I have Oregon beating Penn State. They don't play Ohio State this year. So I have Oregon kind of cruising undefeated through the season. They get to the Big Ten championship. They lose to Ohio State. And maybe they even see each other again later on.
So Ohio State plus 200.
All three of those teams making the playoff. You can write that in Sharpie unless there's a significant injury.
The big question is, does a fourth? And I say no.
Well, you just ruined the plot here because
then we'll save it. We'll save it then.
All right, to win the Big Ten or the Big Ten Conference Championship game, Tansey has Ohio State. Mark Henry Jr. has Ohio State. Ryan Beef Coyle has Penn State at plus 220. And your boy is going with the Oregon Ducks. Quack, quack, plus 370 to win the Big Ten. All right, let's keep it moving here. Let's go to the ACC and find out who's in love with Louisville, or will there be somebody else? Potentially Clemson, potentially Miami. We'll find out. Let's go to Mark. Who you got winning the ACC?
Throwing up the L's. I think Miller Moss is in New York this year. Ooh, how about that for a hot take?
That.
Going with a hot take. I think he's in New York for the Heisman ceremony. I don't have the guts to pick him, but I think he'll be there for the ceremony. And I think he's going to have a huge season. By the way, don't know if it was his mom or his sister. Got a like on Twitter about a Miller Moss tweet today from a Moss family member, though. Shout out to the Moss family. Respect the ring.
You ain't getting that anywhere else. I love it.
But I do love Louisville. I'm buying in. I think Brom's one of the best coaches in the country. And I think Miller Moss showed me more than enough when he was at USC. I think he got blamed really unfairly for what was going on there at USC. I think he's a lot better than people think. I think he's going to be and I think Brom. I was not a Tyler Shuck guy, and I think what Brom did with Tyler Shuck last year, and now we're watching him in the preseason and for the Saints, and it's not looking great. And what he was able to do last year for Brom was really impressive. So I'm taking the swing. But this is more about – it's actually less about Louisville for me. Everybody can tell me all they want about Clemson, and they have this quarterback who's been there forever, and they have these two really good receivers, and they have all these defensive they were all there last year. They were all there last year when Clemson was painfully mid for half the season and then lost to South Carolina when we thought that their life was on the line. Now they saved it. They came out in the ACC championship, and they did go out and beat what we now know was probably a pretty mid SMU team who kind of cruised there off a bad schedule. And they played Texas tough, I guess. Like, what, they probably lost by 10, I think. I forget what the final score was there. But, like, I do not get – and if people want to say, Clemson should be favored to win the ACC, I absolutely agree they should be favored. I think it does tell you them still being plus money. The way people are talking about them is like they're going to –
plus 105, though. It's not,
No, I know, but the way people are talking about it, it's like a foregone conclusion. I tweeted about Louisville, and people were like, you're trolling, picking someone else to win the ACC and all this stuff. And it's like, Clemson's plus money. It's not like plus, they're minus 300. Like
850 Louisville, throwing the L's up. I like it. Great breakdown. Joe Tansey, who you got in the ACC?
It is a foregone conclusion. Give me Clemson plus 105.
Yeah. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with people picking Clemson to win the ACC. I have the problem with people elevating them to national contender status, national championship contender status. I don't know what they did to earn that right to be in that conversation. ACC, they could – I'm being a little – because I don't believe in them, I'm probably being a little, a little hot takey and going with Louisville since I'm not in on Clemson really. Clemson absolutely is the most likely team to win the ACC. I have more of a problem with the push into the Ohio State, Texas, Georgia conversation. And I had a problem with Penn State. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. I much more understand the logic on Penn State being in that. They will be there. We know that every year. I don't understand that logic on Clemson.
Louisville is not the long shot team you have to worry about if you're going to bet the ACC. Georgia Tech at plus 1,200 is.
Ooh,
I like Haynes King. I like Georgia Tech. I like their win total this year. And look, that's an early one, September 13th. They've got Clemson coming to their place. I said a few weeks ago, I'm very high on them to not just win and cover against Colorado in week one. I think they're going to give them the business. And the rest of that schedule is, that's pretty cupcakey. And then the Georgia game doesn't count for conference.
I love it.
The two sexy ones are Georgia Tech and Duke. I know everybody's kind of going in on them. For me, maybe it's – I don't know if it's not chalk because it's not Clemson. I'm pretty out on Miami, not as out as Beef. But to me, it's Louisville or SMU. I still want to give SMU a chance in this conversation. I do think a lot of it was schedule-driven last year. But you return a lot of that team and the quarterback and the head coach. I do think they win 8-9 games.
All right, let's get to the Big 12. Keep it quick because we don't want to waste too much time on this conference, as we already hit on a little earlier. Just to let you know, Clemson for me as well, and Beef for the ACC. Over to the Big 12, Mark Henry Jr., back to you. Who you got? Kansas State plus 550, Arizona State plus 550 at the top.
Wow. So I have K-State. It's plus 550 here. I was going to be like, I didn't check this before we came on. I was going to be like, yeah, Baylor or TCU, long shots. They're plus 700 and plus 850. They're barely less long shots than Kansas State are. Like, so I thought those numbers would be better. But if I was trying to maybe get a little longer odds, I would look at Baylor or TCU. But if I'm just saying who I think wins the conference, it's K-State.
All right. Joe?
I'm going to stick with the Clones at plus 1,100. I know I'm out on them in week one, but I want to fall in love with Baylor, but the start of their schedule is not great. They play ASU and KSU and at home and go to Stillwater, which, look, I know Gundy's not in the national discussion right now, but I think Oklahoma State.
Terrible.
I think they're going to pull one or two off. That's just my undying loyalty to Mike Gundy. But if you look at Iowa State's schedule, after Farmageddon, things will calm down. The only really tough game they have is Arizona State, and that's at home. I like Rocco Becht. I think they'll figure it out offensively. I don't like the spot in week one with that much production leaving at wide receiver. If they play K-State in week 3 or 4 again, like I said earlier, I think I'd be a lot more confident. But I like the number. I like the coach. I like the quarterback. And the Big 12, look, it's wide open. I'm not as high as on ASU as some people are. I think the Texas Tech experiment might come crashing down.
I agree.
And then after that point, it really is kind of a crapshoot. Will Avery Johnson take the next step? Or will Sawyer Robertson take the next step? Will it be Josh Hoover? Will it be Rocco Becht? We really don't know. So why not, in a conference of chaos, take a coach, a team, a decent schedule? Iowa State.
Sawyer Robertson 80-1 to win the Heisman.
Ooh. Conference of chaos, and I'm going to stick with that. First of all, Ryan Beef quote going with Utah. That's a popular pick. A lot of people do like the Utes. Always strong, tough to win in their house. Plus 600. I'm going a little bit more of the back of the bus, boys, and they made history by announcing a freshman quarterback that is starting, a true freshman for BYU. Plus 2,000, 20-1. They're going to be, you ready for this? They'll be 6-0. 6-0 on the season as they welcome Utah to BYU. So that's a winnable game right there. 6-0 rolling into that game. I believe it. BYU rolling with the freshmen.
There's a letdown. I can already see it coming from a mile away. They'll beat Utah in your scenario, and they will fall so flat in games the next week. That is, if that scenario plays out, we'll circle back to it in like the middle of October. But that screams letdown.
I have a hot
10
take.
miles away.
I think it's more likely BYU misses a bowl than wins the conference.
Well, the odds makers aren't disagreeing with you. At 20-1, they're giving them very little shot.
Mark, let me tell you how Sean Brace's brain works. There's a freshman quarterback. His name is Bear Bachmeyer, and he wears number 47. That's all Sean Brace needs
good
here.
Good pull by you on the number. The number did catch my attention. That's a good pull by you, Joe. 47 is very interesting. Nice work by you on that one. All right, fifth and final conference, Mountain West. Again, keep it quick. But we saw how important it was last year. Boise State, the run that they were on, and it was a really entertaining conference too. There was a lot of good games in that conference. Again, college football at its best. Joe, back to you. Mountain West, who you got?
I think Boise might lose week 1.
Whoa. Who they got? I know they're on Thursday.
They're Thursday at South Florida.
It's a 5:30 kick. It's like a first kickoff on Thursday.
Yeah. I'm buying back into Byron Brown as long as he's healthy at South Florida. But look, the two games I think are their toughest are at South Florida and at Notre Dame, and they don't matter to the discussion we're having right now, and that's in the conference. I think you kind of have to go with the favorite here. Man, if Dan Mullen can figure out the quarterback situation at UNLV, I think the number might be worth it. But I think you kind of have to just sometimes you just got to be chalky. One of these teams will emerge as like some like random like team we fall in love with, but right now I think you stay chalk and go Boise.
I'll tell you what, a Boise State is their favorite -165 to win the conference, and if they perform like their odds are kind of showing us here, like you say, let's get chalky. That's a hell of a program. I know it is. It's always been good. Don't get me wrong, but it feels like that's a next level because they had a great season last year. Of course, that means they're replacing Genty and his production, which is insane. But we'll see. Plus or -165 Boise to win the Mountain West. Over to you, Mark.
I'm not even – if I'm making a bet here, I would just make it on the playoff. On it, I think whoever wins this conference probably does go to the playoff.
Sure.
As we saw last year. Like I said, I think UNLV 15-1 is worth a sniff. I think Boise obviously is the favorite. I'm a Dan Mullen truther. I'm a Dan Mullen guy. If I was any of the big jobs over the last 2 years that had a big opening, I would have been calling Dan Mullen. What he did at Florida, I don't think has ever been properly respected. He was 34-15 over 4 years there. Went 10-3, 11-2, 8-4, and then he gets fired for going 5-6. One bad year, like so disrespectful of Florida, and that's why they're in the situation they're in, and they're cursed. But I think we might see. You look at what he did at Mississippi State in the SEC. 9-4, 7-6, 8-5, 7-6, 10-3, 9-4, 6-7, 8-4. He does what he does at Florida in the SEC at the hardest level. And now he's going to the Mountain West where he has way more money than every other team out there except for Boise State. I think Dan Mullen is a great, great coach. And I think that they're going to come ahead and really surprise teams this year. And they're my pick, a long shot pick.
To win the conference, you got them as well. But I know you said playoff.
Yeah, I would bet. I would never bet I would just bet them to make the playoff.
Can you just take them for this conversation?
Yeah,
here? All right,
sure.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll get
follow the task.
Yeah. 160.
I want the graphic to say UNLV to make playoff 15-1. That's what I want.
I will give you that opportunity too when we get to the.
That's the next segment.
I don't want it for that box.
I figured as much too. I knew that was coming. UNLV plus 750. That's who I'm going with as well. Mark, you made the case. I'm signing up. And why not? Let's go. -165. There's no fun in that. But if Boise State is as good as advertised, then it won't be a surprise if they do go on the run, win the conference yet again. Now, beef Boise State as well, -165. All right. Those are our conference winners there. Let's go. One team to make the playoff. We'll save the natty for last, of course. One team, Joe, I'll come to you first. We're looking for a yes to make the playoff, and it could be -200. It could be a long shot. But if somebody came up to you and said, I have $100, I need to place it on a winner, one team to make the playoff, Joe Tansey says what?
Illinois plus 500.
Oh, wow. That is a hell of a call. Wow. Illinois. Love it. Please break that one down.
There will be 4 teams from the Big Ten into the playoff. And you can also bet that under college football playoff specials at DraftKings Sportsbook. Over 3.5 Big Ten teams to make the college football playoff is plus 170.
Yeah, so it's more than likely no. Okay.
We know we're getting Ohio State. We know we're getting Penn State. We know we're getting Oregon. I don't necessarily believe in Indiana this time around. We'll see what happens. But again, veteran quarterback, Luke Altmaier. Burt knows how to win. Look, there's no doubt about that. You talk about a coach who has disciplined teams. He knows how to coach it up in the trenches. They're coming off a pretty good year last year, and the schedule breaks their way. They only have to play Ohio State, and that's at home on October 11th. They have to go to Indiana in their Big Ten opener. They have to go to Duke in September. But I think if I'm looking at that game against Duke, Altmaier, I think, is better than Mensah, and I give them the quarterback edge in that game. They'll probably be favored anyway. And then you look at the rest of the schedule. I mean, their road trips in the Big Ten are Indiana, Purdue, Washington, and Wisconsin. 3 of those 4 probably shouldn't scare you. The Indiana game, again, I'm not sold on Indiana year 2 under 6. I know he's a winner, but I like what Illinois is selling way more than I do Indiana in 2025. And again, schedule, a lot of these teams, SMU, Indiana, got help from the schedule. I think Illinois, even if they were to play Oregon or Penn State, I think they'd still be in the mix. I really like what they've built there, and that number to me is very juicy. I think we're getting 4 teams in from the Big Ten. I don't trust that we're getting multiple from either the ACC or the Big 12. I think the Big 12 is going to cannibalize itself. I think the mid-tier of the ACC probably does that as well. And then you have – so who's left? Miami? I mean, they just self-cannibalize every year.
Well, let's hear what
right?
Mark's got to take here, and then we'll go and hear his spiel on some of the teams too as well. Unless you want to continue down the board and get the Baylor, South Carolina, and keep it good. Mark, one team to make the playoff. Who you got?
I had 4 I was coming into this discussion with. I knocked UNLV out because we talked about them.
Yep.
We knocked Louisville out because we talked about them. So I'm down to my last 2.
Okay.
Not anywhere near Joe Tansey's ballpark of plus
it
500.
is. That's a big number. Go ahead, though.
That's a big ballpark. But I'm going to go I'll go with the less interesting option. I'll go with the, place the ball right on the fairway, plus 110. Give me LSU. I think they should be minus 150, minus 200 to be there in the playoff. We've just talked about it. I love LSU against Clemson in week 1. And if I love LSU against Clemson, I'm not as high on as a lot of people on Florida. I'm lower than everyone on Ole Miss. I'm a little bit lower than consensus on South Carolina. And then you have basically A&M and Alabama. And if LSU loses both of those games and wins out the rest of their schedule and goes 10-2, they're going to be in the playoff anyway. So I feel pretty good about LSU's schedule, the way it sets up. I think a lot of people would point out and say, oh my God, that's so tough. You compare it with Georgia and a couple other those teams in the SEC. I think it's manageable. And I think LSU is going to be there, or it's Brian Kelly's you-know-what, and he's on the door on the way out. So I think it's LSU. The team I was wrestling with LSU is Texas A&M, because Texas A&M has 3 big games. I have them at plus 220, 3 big games against Notre Dame, Texas, and a team that I'm forgetting right now. But there's 3. Let me look that up as I'm talking. That's bad radio. But LSU. Oh, I just said it. Duh.
Yeah.
So Notre Dame, LSU, Texas. If Texas A&M can just win one of those games, I think they're going 10-2, and I think they're going to be in the playoff. But 3 really tough games.
Unfortunately, Beef didn't understand the assignment. He's a kickball round 2, and he did not send me one. He did send me a complete playoff field, but there's no fun in that. So if he wants to give us Texas minus 320, awesome. But we'll skip that.
Let's take the longest shot from his field. He didn't understand the assignment. So
Clemson.
No, that's not the longest shot. Utah. It's got to be.
Who's his Big 12? Yeah, who's his Big 12 champion?
He sent you the text to Utah, right? Yeah, Utah's. Yep, correct. So Utah to make the playoffs in this conversation is at plus 450. All right, so we're putting Beef down for Utah. That's plus 450. Mark, I wanted to go Clemson, and it's just minus 200. I think that's a lock to make the playoffs. I think I know Joe's agreement, but I'm not going to go there. So exactly where you said where your way of thinking was. Let's put it right in the middle of the fairway. Plus 110 LSU. I'm a believer in Brian Kelly. I think he fixes what went wrong last year. I know they have a ton of carryover from the offense. I think you're going to see that production continue this year. And, man, I'll tell you, I was saying, I didn't think last year when he hit the table, kind of came off, like forced. And then you rewatched it with the SEC Netflix deal, and I was like, man, you know what? There was a little passion, a little fire. I'm telling you, Brian Kelly's going to get them believing this year. I got them winning week 1. Tough schedule, but we'll see, man. I like LSU plus 110. That's my one team to make the playoffs. All right. From there, let's get to the Natty. The granddaddy of them all. National champion matchup. Mark Henry Jr. will come back to you to kick things off here. National champion matchup, and then who is winning it all this year?
Down to my final 4. It was Ohio State beating Georgia to get to the national championship. And then on the other side of things, we have Oregon beating the Notre Dame Fighting Irish to get to the national championship. Notre Dame makes it back to the Final 4, not quite all the way back to the Natty. We get a rematch of the Big 12 or the Big 10, Big 12 title game. That'd be wild. Rematch of the Big 10 title game. Ohio State, Oregon, this time in the Natty. Ohio State wins it again. 3 straight times Ohio State hands Dan Lanning his lunch money. And we're sitting around all offseason asking, does Dan Lanning have an Ohio State problem? Because that would be 3 straight times on 3 very big stages where he lost to the Ohio State Buckeyes. So that's where I'm going with this.
Joe Tansey, to you. Oregon is plus 1,300. I apologize. Oregon is plus 1,300 to win it all this year. Joe Tansey?
Ohio State.
Ohio State is plus 550, tied with Texas.
Yeah. I do not have a projected 12-team bracket like everybody else on this podcast does.
Not me either, but I can give you 2.
But do Texas over Penn State.
Ooh, that'd be a fun matchup. Please get me Penn State in the national championship.
Well, they won't be. They won't be.
Please.
They most likely won't be.
They won't be.
Because we would pack up and we would pack up whatever building possible if Penn State would make the national championship.
Leave me out of the we that we're doing there in the Royal We.
That's you gambler tag. We would be there.
You couldn't even get excited. Well, you couldn't even get excited for your own team being in the Natty last year.
Meaning the radio station.
I don't know what you're talking about. I was my 3 favorite wins of my lifetime were last year in the playoff. One of them was beating Penn State in the biggest game of their lives.
Yeah, and then you walked into the Natty being all negative Nancy, and I had to give you a pep talk just so we could have an exciting stream with a Notre Dame fan.
I think they played one of the all-time great teams. I'm incredibly proud of what Notre Dame did last year. I think they lost to an all-time great team.
That's loser talk.
Tansey plus 550.
That's fine. I don't think Penn State lost to an all-time great team when Notre Dame was missing their 2 top picks in the NFL draft. I'll tell you that.
Oh, I knew we were going to end on fireworks. Plus 550 Texas. Tansey goes. Ryan Beef Coyle has Georgia over LSU. Georgia coming in at plus 750. I can get down with that as well. Nice work there. Not easy, boys, but I am going to say it's back-to-back for Ohio State. That's my national championship pick. Ohio State over Clemson is our natty. Plus 550 for Ohio State. Yeah, as I said, they're at the top. I just look at what they have at the skill position. I'm ready to see what Sayan's about. It's a big ask, but I just feel like that's the type of program that's just going to reload, and they got something special up there with Jeremiah Smith. So
I would also like to throw the ball to Jeremiah Smith 100 times per season.
And that's why I'm not worried about Sayan at all.
If you want to cover him with like Texas did, I mean, they were successful with 2 guys covering them. That's fine. It's just everybody else is going to eat. So I'm excited. The team's loaded, as you said, even with Downs on the defensive side. So it's exciting to see what they have again. It's going to be difficult to see them do it again. But that's my pick. Plus 5.
Real quick, I hate to harp on this, but you picked Clemson there, and I want to just ask Tansey because I didn't get a full, and I know he picked the ACC, and it's a foregone conclusion. Do you think I'm crazy for thinking everybody else is crazy for putting them in the national title contender status, Tansey?
I don't know if I would put them in the national title mix yet.
I understand the Penn State one more, and I know I'm making fun of the Penn State thing. I can wrap my mind around why people are doing. I've done the Penn State thing myself, where I picked them to go to the I've been there before. The Clemson thing, I'm shocked by the industry-wide picking of Clemson, and I think it's like Phil Steele getting in people's brains, to be honest, and stuff like that.
No, that would be Oklahoma if you listen to Phil Steele.
Well, Phil Steele loves Penn State, Clemson, and Oklahoma.
Yes, you're right. You're right about Penn State too. Clemson, everybody loves across the universe. There are a lot of ACC guys that I hear on the radio, and they love Clemson.
I would say
I'm a Dabo guy.
I know there's a bunch of. I'm not.
I am.
I'm a
Dabo guy.
As a coach, I am. As a leader of men, person, character. WWE character.
The guy that's only won 2 national championships. You're not okay. I didn't know.
No, as a coach, I'm in. As like the Dabo character.
A long time ago.
I've been out.
It was a long time ago.
It was, but I think defensively they're going to have some horses this year. That's going to lead the charge, and I like the quarterback. He's coming back.
That was a very good coach. He's just very preachy.
My point is I'm not going to sit here. It's funny because I'm not going to sit here and say that I got him lucking into the national chips because you got to win 4 games to get to that spot, or 3 games to get to that spot.
It's a lot.
That is a lot. You're right, but I feel like anything is possible. and we're gonna see some sort of upset happen, hopefully. And then I got Ohio State coming out on top. We'll see.
My whole thing is like Texas. I understand. Like Sarkisian's been so good the last couple of years. Arch could step in and be so good. LSU probably the best player in the country in Nussmeier. I get them. Like Bama's Bama. DeBoer's been such a great coach everywhere he's been. It's year 2. He takes that leap. I get that. It's Georgia. They won 2 titles in the last 4 years or whatever it is. And if you want to say they just got Zachariah Branch and Gunnar Stockton, I get Penn State. They've got all the names, all the 5 stars. They've been there the last couple of years. They're going to win 10 games. Ohio State, they just did it. Oregon, I've made my case. Like, I get all of those, and I can't wrap my head around Clemson.
Which is weird because every description you've had of a bunch of those teams you just mentioned can apply to Clemson. Coaching wise, you can absolutely put Dabo in the mix. He's won something. Doesn't matter how long ago it was.
My point, I don't think he's that guy anymore. I think we've seen now he just hasn't been at that level in 5 years. They haven't been an elite team since 2020.
I think they, and the reason why they took the backslide was and I know he makes fun of the transfer portal crap. I really do think Dabo had trouble adjusting to this new era of college football more than any of the other elite coaches. I think that's one of the factors. Now, the quarterback situation was really messy too with Uiagalelei. That whole thing.
It's been Klubnik for a while now. It's been
right.
Klubnik for 4 years.
I'm saying the last few years, like the DJU thing set them back a few years.
Yeah,
true.
They threw Klubnik right into the fire. Now, look, Klubnik's got to deliver this year. There's no doubt about that.
Oh yeah.
But I think if
that defense is good as advertised,
I think if you're lumping in the coaching and the talent, like a bunch of those other teams, they've at least got to be in the mix. I'm not going to sit here and sell you on them winning the Natty, but if your reasoning is coaching, talent, all of those intangibles, they've at least got to be mentioned just because of who they have.
Well, I think the difference is Texas went to the playoff last year and went to the playoff the year before. Georgia won 2 of the last 4 titles. Alabama, if you want to say Alabama doesn't belong, that's fine. I can throw my hands up and say maybe Alabama's argument isn't as good as Clemson's. I can see that. LSU, fair. I think Nussmeier's like way better than Klubnik.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe that's I don't think that's I think some people would argue for Klubnik over Nussmeier, though. I think Brandon Walker actually has Klubnik ranked over Nussmeier this year on his rankings. So, but you could say maybe take LSU out of the conversation. But Oregon went undefeated a year ago. Ohio State just did this a year ago. Penn State made the playoffs last year and would have made it the last 10 years in a 12-team playoff. Like, I maybe you could say Bama and LSU are similar to the Clemson argument. The other teams, I think we just have much more recent evidence of them being elite than Clemson.
You could also kind of spin it a different way and be like, what has Sark won? What has James Franklin won? What has Dan Lanning won?
Yeah, that's fair.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like
nobody's won anything besides Kirby, really.
Besides Kirby and Dabo.
But it feels like the success that those guys that you just mentioned with Lanning, Sark, and who was the third one you just said?
Franklin.
Franklin.
More recent.
Recent, exactly, right?
But Dabo.
And by the way, I didn't even throw
Dabo was on life support last year, and all he did was make the playoffs. Right?
I didn't even throw Notre Dame in because I understand. Yeah, he made he went 9-3, but I didn't
make the playoffs, and you got a chance to win it all. That's
he
I
made
don't
the
have
playoffs.
him winning it all. I got Ohio State winning it all.
Playoffs. But
all right,
maybe that's why he gets in again. But
great job, man. This was fun. We rocked 3 episodes, summer school, year 2. Awesome job, guys. Thank you very much. It's been entertaining and, of course, top of the line conversation as well as picks. Nobody knows college football more than Tansey, Mark Henry Jr., and Ryan Beef Coyle. Of course, make sure you follow all 3 of those guys.
We have a kickball update.
I need one.
Get out of here. All right.
Let me just tell you, I would tear a hamstring within 90 seconds.
Yes.
He better have won that damn kickball.
He's also 25, so he's out there running at 10 o'clock at night, 6 o'clock in the morning. Kid's nuts. All right, good luck on all those plays, everybody. College football, we will be all over it all season long right here on The Gambler. As always, if you miss anything, at foxphogambler.com.